Hey guys, been a while, hasn't it? It's a Friday, and well, better late than never for me, who's been quite busy, very, very busy, which is why I've been missing so many Fridays. But I'm at least able to squeak this one out today, so here I am. Welcome to yet another edition of the Breakfast Club. So, been quite. It's, we've had some really interesting weeks since the last time I've put something up. And once again, I find myself having to talk about politics. What else is new? Out of all the different things that have been popping up, the one thing that I'm finding really interesting, if not troubling, is this whole idea of impeachment within the Democratic Party when it comes to Trump, and how the party seems to be divided at this point. The leader, Nancy Pelosi, pretty much is against the idea, basically saying that unless we have the full support of the American people, there is no reason to go for full impeachment, or to go to impeachment, period. Then you have, the louder voices within the Democratic Party basically saying, no, screw that. This guy needs to be impeached, and he needs to be impeached now. So we're seeing, some bit of chaos going on in the Democratic Party, which has been brewing for some time now. Even before we get to this point, there is a sense in the American left, such as it is, that the Democratic Party hasn't really been pushing far enough for the American people. That there needs to be some more radical ideas within the party, and it needs to be done quickly. And this has been something that's been brewing for quite some time. Even before, even before certain more outspoken members, of the party, like for instance, good old AOC, or Alexandria. I hope I don't pronounce the name. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Ocasio-Cortez. I probably messed it up. Sorry if I did. But AOC, is one of the more louder voices. But even before she showed up, and basically ended up being something of both a media darling and a pariah at the same time, depending on who you talk to. It's funny how many of her views are, pissing off the country, but I'm going to get into that in a moment. It's sort of how we got to this point. But even before that, there was already people, on the left in the Democratic Party who were getting a little fed up with how things were going. I still remember, for instance, how appalled Pelosi looked about a couple of years back when she was dealing with some people in the audience, the Democratic Party, like talking about ideas, and many young people in the audience were basically championing for more democratic socialist ideas. Now, some people just go straight up socialist ideas. Well, if you believe that, then you should be calling Social Security a socialist idea. You should be calling a 5-day work week a socialist idea. You should be, any sort of public works, a socialist idea. Because the ideas that these people were asking for were things like universal health care and, more access to higher education for younger people, things that European countries have been doing for quite some time, and they're not full-on socialist. But in this country, if you bring that up, you're a full-on socialist. If you, for instance, try to come up with, that so-called Green Deal that's going through right now, which doesn't look like it's going to get passed at all, and people are trying to call it a disaster because of how far it's pushing. It's funny, even people, on the liberal side of things are trying to, denounce it because it's too radical. And it just goes to show that the socialists are going nuts. It's not a socialist idea. In fact, it's basically a plan put together by someone who sees the writing on the wall. Anybody who actually takes the time to look at the disaster heading our way because of our current climate policies, like, our environmental policies, yeah, they'd probably put together something like this too. Like, if you knew a hurricane was about to come through that was strong enough to completely destroy the houses in your neighborhood, and you started grabbing wood and boarding up your windows, no one would call you nuts because you're taking drastic measures. But what we're seeing right now is someone who knows the hurricane is coming, so they're stockpiling on food, and they're getting, flashlights and all that type of stuff for their home, and they're boarding up their windows, and everyone else in the neighborhood's looking around going, what the hell is your problem? It's just going to be a little wind. Hurricanes come all the time. What? Not knowing that, meanwhile, everyone's predicting this is a big one. It already smashed through this state and whatever. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's going to cause it. And this is the only person paying attention to the radio, so they're boarding up the house, and they're looking at the guy. This guy's crazy. Okay. But I'm getting a little bit off track. This is what I'm finding interesting, if I can get to the core of the topic that I'm talking about in this video. We've now reached a point, and it's been brewing for some time. We've reached a point where we have somebody in office, and I've stated this many times before, and I'm not going to stop saying it because it's truth, whether people want to admit it or not. We have someone in office who's just not suited for the job. Just that alone's bad enough. It's like having a bus driver who didn't earn his license. But you gave him a city route, and here he is driving the bus. Never mind the fact that he can't stay in his lane. Never mind the fact that he's bad at braking. Never mind the fact that he's driving it as if it's a small car. You gave him the job. This is what we're in. That's bad enough, considering the job that this dude has. But then when you add corruption on top of that, and a deceitful nature on top of that, the guy just cannot tell the truth to save his life. That's really insane. And there are people who are looking at that and going, things have gone too far. We can't have someone like this leading our country, especially a country that claims to be all about truth and justice and freedom and democracy and so on. It's embarrassing. It's insulting. It's offensive to anybody who happens to believe in the ideals of the country, truly believe and truly understands in the ideals of this country. Kombucha. But then you have other voices going, oh, wait, hold on, man, maybe that's going too far. Or other people who are more strategic-minded going, we aren't going to win trying to impeach this guy. It's just better if we are a thorn in his side for the next several months. Just continue to show off his incompetence so that by the time election time, when it's time for re-election, the American people will not vote for him because we've made him look like a fool, and we've continued to, just show off his weaknesses. Whereas if we just go straight and full on impeachment, and let's face it, we don't have all the American people on our side on this. There is the fringe of people who will support him no matter what. There are the Republicans who, quite frankly, just hate the fact that the Democrats have an edge on them. So even though they have a reprehensible leader running, at the head of their party, they will still support him just for power's sake, just for trying to save face and for stopping the other party from gaining too much of a lead. You got all this going on. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here going, is our system so broken that someone who clearly shouldn't be in that chair can't easily just be taken off of it? That's one thing that I'm wondering how many Americans are thinking about. Like, right now the question is, should we or shouldn't we impeach? And meanwhile, I'm thinking, we've reached a point where this is one of the most important jobs you can have in this country, being president, right? Can we agree on that? There's a lot of important jobs in this country. And I'm sure we could agree that the more important the job, the more qualified you want the guy to be in order to have the position, because of the amount of damage that could be done. I wouldn't want somebody who's in charge of, say, a power plant to not, be qualified for the position. It's basic sense, right? I'm not really saying anything out of turn here, right? So here we have another really important job. And our system is so screwed up that we simply can't take somebody who's incompetent out of there. Americans' sense of reality and priorities are so screwed up, especially on the political level, that can't even be a clear question and answer situation. It can't simply be okay, look, this guy's screwing up. No, he's got to go. He's got to go. Even there are even Republicans who finally admitted, okay, this guy, what the hell? And yet, impeachment, and to make matters worse, anyone who's just simply idealistically offended by the fact that someone like this is in the position he's in is automatically shown as a radical if they want to impeach him. If somebody wants to actually reverse some of the policies that we've been under for the past few years and actually try to find a way for the government to actually work for the people again in a way that many other democratic countries in Europe have done, oh, you're a radical socialist. We can't bring socialism in America, even though it's been done before with success. Look up FDR's New Deal if you want to gain a little bit more of an education on that. The man is quoted as saying that he saved capitalism after he put that in there. There's a reason why he said that, because he saw the angry wave against rampant capitalism after what had happened in 1929. The 30s were not a good time, and people were seeing just how corrupt businessmen were. He had to implement that New Deal, or we probably would be living in a different America than we are right now. And American businessmen have not learned the lesson from that. America basically got distracted by World War II. Then after World War II, they were in a very good worldly position. And they started getting greedy again. People keep talking about how prosperous the 50s were, but they don't talk about how heavily taxed businesses were and how many social programs were in effect, how much was being put back into infrastructure, how college was cheaper for Americans trying to get ahead. This, by the way, is one of the reasons why I despise baby boomers, because they pretty much were given everything, and look what they've given back in return. But I digress. The propaganda in this country has gotten so insane that something as simple as the guy's not qualified, get rid of him. The guy's breaking laws that he shouldn't be breaking as a leader of this country, get rid of him. That's too difficult a question to properly answer. This is too screwed up a situation for us to just remedy. Fire the guy, put somebody else in charge. Put him up on charges. He's clearly breaking laws. And the voters themselves can't seem to decide on what reality is. That's how screwed up our system has become. Not just our governmental system, but our media system, like how information is disseminated in this country, our educational system, our economy. Everything's thrown topsy-turvy because some people simply cannot let go of power. And because greed is still the number one word in America. I've gone on long enough, and that statement in and of itself is something that I should be explaining further. But I'll hand it off here for now. This is what I'm finding interesting about this whole thing. Again, I'm not focusing on, should we impeach? Should we not impeach? What's a good strategy to use in order? Yeah, I'm sure we can come up with some really interesting conversations on that. You know, how should we be dealing with this particular reality? What's the right course of action in terms of political strategy and for the future of the country? I mean, I'm just simply thinking, if we are running under a political system where somebody who clearly is not suited for the job can't simply be taken off of it, then maybe our political system needs a few more tweaks to get it working again. Just one person's perspective. Catch you guys later.